Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
The United States entered the conflict between Israel and Iran over the weekend, raising concern here at home. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Iran launched a missile attack on a U.S. airbase in Qatar in retaliation for U.S. airstrikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. The U.S. said no casualties were reported. And just this afternoon, President Trump posted on Truth Social that Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire that would bring an end to the conflict. There was no immediate word from either country confirming Trump's announcement. Julia Benbrook has more from the White House.
Iran launched a powerful attack toward a U.S. airbase in Doha, Qatar. Qatar's air defenses intercepted that attack, and no injuries were reported. Now, we are hearing from President Donald Trump. He posted on Truth Social, confirming that there were no Americans harmed and that there was, quote, hardly any damage. He added, perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, adding that he will encourage Israel to do the same. Video obtained by CNN shows a barrage of missiles lighting up the sky in Doha, Qatar, as Iran responds to airstrikes from the U.S. and Israel. A U.S. defense official tells CNN that there are no reports of U.S. casualties caused by the short-range and medium-range ballistic missiles fired by Iran. It's the latest salvo in the ongoing Middle East conflict between Iran and Israel. Early Monday morning, the Israeli military launched attacks on Tehran, including the entrance of Iran's notorious Evin prison. This comes after weekend strikes by the United States on Iranian nuclear sites.
There has been a direct kinetic impact. Internally, we cannot judge. But of course, one cannot exclude that there is significant damage there.
The White House Monday reiterated the claim that the U.S., quote, totally obliterated the nuclear sites. However, the UN's nuclear watchdog agency says it's unable to confirm the whereabouts of Iran's stockpile of near-weapons-grade nuclear material.
Obviously, if they moved enriched uranium, that is something that we are going to have to evaluate and address.
President Donald Trump alluded to the possibility of regime change in Iran on social media Sunday, writing, quote, if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? However, Monday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said regime change was not the motivation for Sunday's strikes.
The president was just simply raising a question that I think many people around the world are asking.
Trump did meet with some members of his national security team this afternoon here at the White House. In Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
San Diego is home to more than 12,000 immigrants from Iran, and that is according to the Migration Policy Institute. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says many of them are fearful for the safety of family members living in their home country as the U.S. joins Israeli attacks against Iran.
The conflict in the Middle East in the last few weeks has created fear and uncertainty for the Iranian-American community in San Diego, says Bibi Kasre.
I was born in Tehran, Iran. I have had to flee Iran with my parents at the age of 17, 4 years after the revolution.
She's an Iranian activist who has lived in San Diego since 1996.
This trauma is in our DNA. We know what war means.
She's concerned for her many extended family members still in her home country.
The warning came from Israel and America for a city of 10 to 14 million people, which is Tehran, to leave Tehran. And that's where chaos started, because these people, where should they go?
Kasre says she couldn't get in touch with her family for 4 days, largely due to internet outages. She says her cousin tried to get fuel for 3 days before fleeing.
She said on the first day they tried, a distance that took 20 minutes, took 8 hours. So they had to come back home under the threat of bombings.
Besides helping her family, she has 120,000 followers on Instagram and has been trying to assist anyone who reaches out, even strangers.
I was like, who doesn't have a place to go? Who doesn't have a car? Who doesn't have fuel? And trying to match them. It was chaotic. Like, we have not slept a wink, whether we are inside or outside of Iran. It's been very tough.
While local congressional leaders' reactions to the airstrikes are more or less split along party lines, with Republican Darrell Issa praising the effort and Democrats like Sarah Jacobs condemning the lack of congressional approval, Kasray says this is about human lives at stake, as many remain in limbo.
People don't know what to believe, but their first worry is basically their livelihood and how to survival.
A rally is planned outside of the San Diego Hall of Justice tomorrow afternoon to oppose what organizers call escalating repression in Iran and support for a democratic change. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And U.S. strikes on Iran are an extraordinary turn for the military that was supposed to be moving on from conflict in the Middle East. It's also a turn for military families. Right now, San Diego's USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier is in the Arabian Sea. According to the Associated Press, it's part of a strike group that is not participating in the defense of Israel. Instead, it's providing security for U.S. bases along the Gulf of Oman and the Gulf of Persia. As the call to action looms for service members, calls for military spousal support are also ramping up.
When we watch our service member leave, there's always a chance that something is going to happen that maybe is unpredictable and not something that we thought was going to happen. With recent events, our families, they can feel scared.
The San Diego City Council voted this afternoon to restore funding in the city's 2026 budget that Mayor Todd Gloria vetoed last week. And this was Gloria. Oh, it looks like we've got the wrong video.
Well, after a really pretty nice first weekend of summer, as we head into the overnight hours on this Monday, we're staying pretty mild, dropping down to 60 degrees. We do still have the low clouds to deal with because of the marine layer. That's going to kind of ebb and flow throughout the start of the week. But I'll give you an idea of exactly what to expect for the week ahead coming up.
Well, back to the story I was talking about. The San Diego City Council voted this afternoon to restore funding in the city's 2026 budget that Mayor Todd Gloria vetoed last week. And this after Gloria warned it could lead to further cuts down the road. And KPBS reporter Jake Gada joins us from the newsroom with more. Jake.
The City Council voted today to override Mayor Todd Gloria's line item vetoes and restore some funding for various programs. This caps off a budgeting process that started back in December when the mayor announced that the city was facing a $258 million deficit. That number has since grown to $350 million. Earlier this month, Gloria received the City Council's approved budget for the next fiscal year, which added more than $30 million to his proposal. Last week, Gloria returned his line item vetoes to the council, cutting nearly $5 million of that spending that the mayor said would put the city at financial and operational risk. And at the council meeting today, Gloria echoed these concerns.
Should this council choose to override my veto entirely, you are endorsing a level of risk that I cannot support and that I will not support. That budget will not carry my signature. If this council's projected revenues fall short, as the independent budget analyst has warned that they might, and deeper cuts must be made at mid-year, those cuts and their consequences belong to those who will choose to ignore the advice and the warnings that have been given in this chamber.
Still, Councilmember Foster, who is the budget chair, introduced a motion to override the mayor's veto entirely. That vote failed. The council member then introduced a second motion to restore much of the funding, but leaving out some of the mayor's vetoes, and that vote passed 6-3. With this vote, the council is making their priorities clear, restoring some funding for brush management. From the newsroom, Jake Gada, KPBS News.
Okay, well, thanks so much for that, Jake. The Monte fire in Lakeside is now 90% contained, with more than 1,000 acres charred. While no homes were burned, that's an...
It's a little more tropical than...
When Kevin Walton moved into his newly built Dixon Trail home 3 months ago,
we wanted to be close to our daughter.
He didn't know that he'd be among the first dozen or so families to live in a fire-hardened community.
We only learned that after the fact.
Walton called it a bonus.
For a brand new house, that's perfect because we would have wanted to add at least some of those elements like the indoor sprinkler system, but we didn't have to. It was built in, so total bonus.
And there's another bonus, especially because it's in a high fire danger zone.
It's going to help the customers guarantee that they can get insurance from an insurance provider in the state.
Steve Ruffner oversees development projects across the region for KP Homes. So what makes this 64-home community fire resilient?
We are building Class A fire-rated roofs. On top of that, the underlayment is fire-rated. On top of that, all of the venting material, including the screening material on our gutters, etc., are 1/8 inch, so it will not allow an ember to get into the attic during a wind-blown event and cause a fire.
In addition, there's also a 5-foot perimeter around the home where no landscaping is allowed.
On all of our eaves, these are stuccoed so that no wind-blown ember could possibly reach the roof. And then all of the houses have metal fencing or masonry. This is metal. It won't catch fire.
In addition to the metal fencing and the stucco eaves, the homes are 10 feet apart to slow down the spread of fire. That's the reason why the nonprofit Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety declared the community fire prepared. It previously only gave such designations to individual homes. In a demonstration, homes not built to IBHS's standards burned within 40 minutes. So how much do these homes cost?
We are like in the very low millions, just over $1 million to about $1,150,000 to $200,000, depending on the size of the lot and the size of the home. And really, that's close to the median price for a new home in the county.
According to Zillow, the median price for an existing home in Escondido is nearly $860,000. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Well, today, structural engineers at UC San Diego saw how a 10-story building made from cold-formed steel could react in a 6.9 magnitude earthquake. They simulated that kind of earthquake on their outdoor shake table. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge was there.
The earthquake shake table was ready to go, and it had a 10-story building sitting on it. In about half an hour, the table would start moving, and structural engineer Ben Schaefer was ready to see how the building would handle it.
Externally, we'll be looking at exactly how the building deforms, but internally we have a huge number of sensors, so we can look at every aspect of the building to see if it is performing the way we want and understand exactly how all the forces are moving inside the building.
The building shook and, well, it didn't collapse. Schaefer, the co-investigator on the shake test, said today's test result wasn't quite what they expected.
A little bit of a surprise for us in terms of the fact that the building was twisting as well as shaking side to side. And so kind of no surprise here, we saw more of that twisting in addition to shaking side to side.
The earthquake shake table reproduced the effects of the Loma Prieta earthquake, the one that hit the San Francisco Bay Area in 1989. The shake table has been in operation since 2004, and it's one of only 3 like it in the world. Professor Joel Conte has worked with the device since its inception. He says it's gone from only being able to move in an east-west direction to doing a lot more.
6-degree freedom, so the table can now move also north-south. It can yaw like that, can go up and down, can pitch, can roll. So we have the full 6-degree freedom like your feet would feel on the ground during an earthquake.
The building that was tested today was built from a recycled steel called cold-formed steel. These days, such buildings can only be 6 stories high in an earthquake zone, but a successful test on the shake table could allow taller constructions.
Cold-formed steel is thin sheet steel, and it's very light.
Reducing the mass of a building is a great advantage in an earthquake. The lightness also allows a building to be built in modules, which can be lifted by a crane and put in place. That saves time and money for builders and hopefully reduces the cost of housing for everyone. There is more shake testing to come for this 10-story building. They plan to turn up the force of the Loma Prieta earthquake to simulate what they call a maximum credible earthquake event, about 50% higher than the actual earthquake.
That would be a very rare earthquake, but we definitely want to generate the data to be able to understand the behavior of the building under that very rare event.
That rare earthquake is one that would only happen once every 2,500 years. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
As artificial intelligence continues to progress, could we soon see some entry-level positions disappear? In recent weeks, a few of Silicon Valley's top leaders have warned AI is coming for people's jobs, and it's coming fast. Here's Michael Yoshida with what you should know if you're worried AI may be coming for your job.
As the artificial intelligence boom continues to accelerate, some industry insiders, including the CEO of one of the world's leading artificial intelligence labs, are ringing the warning bell.
Compared to previous technology changes, I'm a little bit more worried about the labor impact simply because it's happening so fast that, yes, people will adapt, but they may not adapt fast enough.
Experts are split on just how quickly and drastically AI will upend the job market. Still, impacts are being felt.
Entry-level jobs, that first rung on the career ladder, are breaking down a bit.
LinkedIn's Anish Raman says it's one of the most challenging job markets for young people in decades.
The knowledge economy that we have been in for the last half century, it's on the way out.
If you're worried AI is coming for your job, Raman says focus on non-technical skills, what he calls the 5 C's: curiosity, compassion, courage, creativity, and communication. Also, figure out and hone in on what makes you unique. That's your edge. And remember, learning doesn't stop when you graduate. Keep building your knowledge base and understanding of new technologies.
Our data at LinkedIn shows that 70% of the average skills for the average job will have changed by 2030.
Educators are embracing these changes too. The dean of Tulane's business school saying its curriculum is expanding to fit this new business environment.
The education is going to be more experiential. They are going to apply the AI techniques in a new way of putting together business processes.
In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
School is out for a summer, and while it means fun in the sun for kids, it can also be expensive for parents as they juggle childcare needs. Data shows that costs skyrocket for parents during the summer. Jen Sullivan looks at how much parents spend and ways to help you save.
Year-round childcare costs in the last 5 years have gone up 29%, according to a recent survey from Child Care Aware of America. Last year, the average price of childcare was more than $13,000.
Parents are having to juggle their kids being out of school, and now they're not in just after school care. They're needing care all day long.
And summers can be particularly expensive for parents. Beth Klung-Piable works at Savings.com. She's also a mom and knows firsthand how challenging the summer months can be.
It takes a lot of planning, and if you can do that in advance, then it's really helpful.
Savings.com recently conducted a survey and found child care costs increase over 300% in the summer months for a typical family.
These parents told us that they set aside all year long, so a little bit out of every check goes toward those increased expenses in the summer.
There are a few ways parents can save. Lean on family and friends for help. Many camps offer scholarships. Most public libraries offer free drop-off programs. And check out the programs at your local YMCA. And if you're looking for free activities, most public parks have free splash pads, and some museums offer free days.
Kind of plan around, these are the free events that we're going to load our summer up with, and we're going to have a great time, but it's not going to break the bank.
And if you're looking to do a family trip, Klung-Piable says hotels and airfare tend to be cheaper towards the end of August. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Well, we started summer with a relatively cooler pattern with temperatures below our historical averages. This week, we're dealing with a little bit of a warming trend that'll get us back to historical averages, but it does continue into the weekend when we'll bump up a little bit above where we should be this time of year. Now, the low clouds, we've been dealing with it to start off the week. That's going to continue the next couple of days. The marine layer will deepen and lessen kind of day to day. So how far inland these low clouds get is going to kind of depend on the day. But just be aware that you could have some low clouds to start out your morning. Just know that you could see some visibility impacts. Let's talk about what to expect for tonight, though. Dropping down to the 50s and 60s overall, 56 in Escondido, 56 also in El Cajon, and 53 over there in Mount Laguna. Tomorrow, we are warming up into the 70s for most of us, 82 there in Ramona, but 70 for San Diego. And of course, Borrego Springs, a little bit of the outlier there, getting close to triple digits once again. It's that time of year, but you can see plenty of sunshine it's just going to feel like Southern California summer, right? So taking a look at what to expect the next couple of days. Now, we do have a little bit of that warming trend for some of us, right? We're just varying by a degree or two through the rest of the work week. But then as we get to Saturday, that's when we bump up into the mid 70s. Overall, it's just a degree or two. Each day is going to feel very similar. It's just a little bit of a difference of clouds, low clouds, more of the high clouds on Wednesday, but overall a pretty mild week ahead. Further inland, we do get to the 80s by the time we get to Wednesday, 84 for your Friday and Saturday. Moving to our mountain 5-day outlook, we're in the 60s, but take a look at Friday and Saturday. Friday, we're at 70, then we jump 11 degrees up to 81 for your Saturday. Getting warmer there. Now, in our desert 5-day outlook, we do get back to the triple digits, right? We had a little bit of a break, but we are going to get back to even 106, 107 by Friday and Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Anna Azalian.
80 years ago next month, a rock and roll legend was born. Rosie Hamlin, an icon to the Chicano community. As Alexa Lima reports, Hamlin got her start right here in National City.
Rosie Hamlin Mendez was originally born in Oregon, but her father was in the military and their family moved around for years. Eventually, they settled here in National City.
She played the classical piano.
Rogelio Cázares was Hamlin's neighbor and a close friend. He used to hang out at her house. He didn't like classical music, but he liked listening to Hamlin.
And her mother used to buy us beer when we were in high school to listen to Rosie play the classical piano.
National City is a mostly Latino community. Gerardo Rios is a professor of Mexican-American Studies and History at Southwestern College. He says this decade, the 1960s, was a time of social and political awakening for Chicanos and Latinos.
Many in the community by the 1960s felt that it was a time for liberation, that it was a time to stake their own claim in American society, but more so build their own space.
Hamlin's biggest dream was to become a singer. She was 14 when she wrote one of her first songs. It was a love poem. She called it Angel Baby. In the summer of 1960, Hamlin and her friends drove to a makeshift recording studio in rural San Marcos to tape the song. They went to the manager of a Kresge's department store in San Diego and asked if he would play the record in the listening booth. It was a hit. Teenagers who heard the song at Kresge's clamored to buy it. Hamlin and her friends got the attention of an employee at Highland Records. Soon after, they got a contract. They called themselves Rosie and the Originals. Angel Baby was put on regular rotation across the nation with DJs from San Isidro to New York City, from Seattle to Key Largo. 2 months after its release, it hit number 5 on the Billboard's Hot 100. It was the #1 cruising song in National City, a song that changed popular music and reshaped Chicano culture. Cázares, Hamlin's childhood friend, had joined the Army and was stationed near Monterey, California.
When I was at Fort Ord, Angel Baby came out. And so I said, hey, I know that girl. She's a friend of mine. Nobody believed me.
Rio says this was all happening against the backdrop of the emergence of civil rights leaders like Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, who founded the United Farm Workers. Chicanos were starting to advocate for themselves and push back against systematic inequalities.
In many ways, Chicanismo was their third space. It was a space where they would thrive, where they would carve out their own destinies, where the people would look for greater communal affirmation, and where the people decided to stake a claim at autonomy.
But Hamlin also had to confront the widespread misogyny and machismo Chicanas faced at the time. Women were expected to take traditional domestic roles. And when women did work, they earned significantly less than men for comparable work and experienced discrimination in the workplace.
I'm sure it was very difficult times, because there was a lot of racism.
Norma Cázares grew up in National City at the time when Angel Baby was a hit.
Certainly misogynistic people who, to the point where they wouldn't allow her to put her name on it.
For Hamlin, the record label didn't give her credit for writing Angel Baby because she wasn't 18 when she wrote it, and because she was a woman. Still, Hamlin continued to become even more famous. Rosie and the Originals performed with some of the greats like Jackie Wilson, Chuck Berry, and Big Mama Thornton. Hamlin was also the first Latina to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. John Lennon called Angel Baby one of his all-time favorite songs and recorded his own version in 1973. Through all this, Hamlin fought to reclaim the rights to Angel Baby. She filed a series of lawsuits demanding royalties for its use over the years and credit for her writing. Almost 20 years later, Hamlin won her case. In 2001, Rosie and the Originals released a new version of Angel Baby, this time in Spanglish.
The song Angel Baby sort of became an anthem, for many Chicano families, Mexican-American people.
She brought pride to the city of National City. To this day, there's still people that talk about it.
Rosie Hamlin died in her sleep in New Mexico in 2017. She was 71. Hamlin proved that love can transcend death. Her music has. Rosie and the Originals have entered immortality. In National City, I'm Alexa Lima for KPBS News.
What a story and one of my favorite songs. Well, here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. It's hot out there with temperatures reaching over 100 degrees across much of the country. NPR's Morning Edition talks to an expert about where it is too hot for kids to be outside. And the summer travel season is underway, and KPBS Midday Edition is talking staycations and tips for traveling with kids. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Previs Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.